Hey guys, thanks for being here. Today I'm going to show you the power system of my electric jetboard. But first, let me give you a little overview just to introduce you to the project.
This is how the finished jetboard is going to look like. It features a 10 kilowatt water jet unit, which is paired with a 3.7 kilowatt hour battery. In action, the system looks like this.
If you want to see more about the jet and how I built it, you can watch my previous video. I'll put a link to it in the video description.
Just in case you wonder how somebody riding the surfboard can make turns. It is really easy and works by just shifting body weight and leaning into corners. I actually get that question quite often, which is why I wanted to clarify it here. The body of the surfboard will be made from EPS foam, which is then going to be laminated with glass and carbon fiber.
To manufacture the board accurately, I needed a new tool. The stuff I tried before just wasn't working like I wanted it to. And that is also one of the many reasons why I upgraded from my little CNC machine to this a bit bigger one behind me.
It features a high frequency, up to 40,000 RPM spindle, a tool changer, and most importantly, a vacuum table, which makes it very easy to clamp big foam parts.
But machining and laminating the board will be part of another video, so let's start with the actual topic. The power system of the surfboard consists of three major parts that every modern battery-driven electric vehicle has and needs.
The motor, the inverter, and the battery. The motor I use is a permanent magnet 3-phase machine with a water-cooled stator. To cool the motor not only from the inside but also from the outside, there are 2 fans and 2 radiators mounted to it. Water coming from the jet is pumped through the radiators, which cools them down. The fans spread the cool air in the whole motor compartment.
To be honest, 2 radiators might be a bit of an overkill, but it's always better to have more cooling capabilities instead of having a motor that is running hot. The inverter is making the motor spin by switching high-performance semiconductors.
All of the current that is driving the motor is running through those semiconductor switches. Luckily, I have an inverter here, which I don't use currently, so I opened it up to show you. These are the DC input cables, which would normally be connected to the battery. They are split up into 3 per pole to avoid having only one bigger and stiffer cable. Up there you have the 3 output phases, which go to the motor. What you see here are the semiconductor switching stages. They basically chop up the direct current, which is provided by the battery, into a 3-phase alternating current, which drives the motor.
I'll put a link to a more detailed explanation of inverters in the video description, because it would be a little too much to cover all of that here. The MOSFET switches also need to be cooled very well. They have a small internal resistance, but it is not small enough to not dissipate any heat.
That's why inverters mostly have a big aluminum heatsink and, in many cases, also water cooling. The device used in the surfboard is actively water cooled by the stream that is coming in from the water jet. What you see here are big capacitors, which act as a puffer. Because if they weren't there, you would have a very uneven current from the battery to the inverter, which leads to all sorts of problems. That's also why there is an additional capacitor bank included in the inverter compartment of the surfboard.
The battery of the surfboard consists of 255 individual 21700 lithium-ion cells.
They are arranged as 15 cells in series and 17 cells in parallel. That gives you a nominal pack voltage of 55.5 volts. When the battery is fully charged, the voltage sits at around 62 to 63 volts. When it's fully discharged, it sits at about 45 volts.
The capacity of the pack is around 3.7 kilowatt hours. That will probably be enough for about half an hour of relatively intense riding.
The battery is not actively cooled while the board is used, because the average current won't heat it up too much. Of course, there are still temperature sensors incorporated in the pack to control that and even shut off the board if there's a problem. By the way, If you wonder where my battery management system sits and how I incorporate it, just hang on. I'll talk about it.
Right now, the components of the board are working quite well, but there is one big catch. The environment in which the surfboard is going to be used in is water, maybe even seawater. And let me tell you, I don't really want the water and the electricity to meet up while somebody is riding the board. But to be honest, it is not that easy to avoid that. Everything needs to be sealed very well so that I can guarantee somebody who wants to ride the board that nothing problematic is going to happen.
The motor is encapsulated by the motor compartment. The motor compartment also contains the inverter box. To have maximum protection, the inverter box is completely sealed as well.
Paying close attention to making components waterproof always requires a lot of testing.
The inverter box, for example, spent a lot of time being submerged in a bucket full of water until I was finally happy with the result.
Waterproofing all parts individually will help to reduce damage in case of a bad seal.
Making the battery waterproof is most important, but also tricky because the battery is not fixed to the board. That means that there is a joint between battery and board which needs to seal perfectly every time the battery is put in the board.
You might ask yourself why the battery is not permanently installed. There are a few very simple reasons for that.
It is relatively heavy and it will be more convenient to move the board and the battery separately.
It's also way easier to charge the battery because you won't always have to take the whole board to a power outlet. And it also means that you can just have two batteries and switch between them.
Charging the battery is going to be handled by this self-made charger. It should be able to recharge the battery in about 3 to 4 hours. The battery management system is built into it.
That's a bit unusual, but should still work really well. The cells will be balanced within every charging cycle. But the internal workings of the charger and how the battery is going to be sealed will be the topic of the next video. I really hope that you enjoyed it so far. Thank you very much for watching and staying until the end. I would of course love it if you consider subscribing. We will see us in the next one. Have a nice day. Bye bye.